Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so it's up. I'm up. We're up. The Lakers are in the playoffs. It's 3 a.m. and I've already given myself enough sleep directly after the game for my body clock to be completely out of whack. So that means I got some content to create for y'all in regards to our squad. Been looking at Memphis Grizzlies stats, none of the highlights as of yet, and it really doesn't make any sense as of yet to really do homework on them since we don't play them until Sunday at noon. But I'm already thinking about the Grizzlies. I'm already trying to, kind of get a little more information to revamp my talking points and everything I'm gonna be looking at. But the thing that I'm understanding about the Grizzlies, it's a little different than what I had this morning in my head, is that the Grizzlies are a bit more depleted, looking at their roster, than I had in my mind. Yeah, a bit more depleted. But what that means to me is that they're going to be leaning on players that I actually like a lot, probably more than I otherwise think they would. David Roddy is a player who's going to make a name for himself in this series for certain. Kenny Lofton is not a secret. Nobody's going to be caught off guard by Kenny. He had 42 points and some ridiculous amounts of rebounds in the last game. Nobody, and I mean nobody, should look at him as anything less than a star player on this team with this situation. He's going to be featured a lot. I don't know what's going on with Williams. Actually, they got two guys by the name of Williams. One of them attempted 1 out of 14 threes in the last game. I don't think they should ever put him back on the floor. But there's another Williams, of course, that they use, and I can't think of his first name. Zaire Williams. I don't know what's going on with his health. I don't know what to think of how he's been developed. He was a lottery pick like 3 years ago, and he's shown me enough to know that he should be on somebody's roster, if not theirs. But I just don't know if he's healthy right now. But if he is healthy, he's somebody I expect them to use and use a lot in this series. So that right there is 3 players I think have really, really serious upside that could probably be a starter on somebody's team 3-4 years from now, all 3 of them. So they are real serious problems that the Lakers have to deal with. Santi Saldana is a person who started off the season really, really hot. We talked a lot about how he was stepping in very nicely for Jaren Jackson, who was out for the first month of the season, stretching the floor and stuff like that. He will be important for what they do. There's a few other guys on that team as well that you just have to be very careful about in regards to that Memphis Grizzlies team. But the point being, no Steven Adams, no Brandon Clark. And to me, that takes away a lot. You start talking about Xavier Tillman, excellent player. Jaren Jackson, obviously all-star Defensive Player of the Year candidate. But do you expect for them to stay on the floor long enough to be able to guard what's coming at them? Anthony Davis and all the penetrating players that we're going to be having. You know, when we played the Memphis Grizzlies, in the one time that they beat us this season, I look back on that game and I have thoughts about it that make me frustrated with the team and how we allowed John Morant to go for 39, 10, and 10. And it seemed like our team was so full. It didn't feel like we were dealing with injuries when we were playing that game. It didn't feel like I was leaving myself the excuse of not having this person, not having that person. But when I look back at that game and the stats in that game, Bron didn't play, D'Lo didn't play. It's like, whoa, like we were really doing a lot with a little, and didn't really acknowledge how depleted our team was as we were punching our way through, because we really legitimately had enough to beat these teams, and we're disappointed that we couldn't beat a fully healthy Memphis team without 2 of our best players. So that tells me that my assessment of us versus them isn't giving enough respect to what it is that we're going to be bringing this time versus what it is they don't have. I think that's the difference between what I'm thinking right now and what I was thinking maybe any other time I was making these videos leading up to this particular possible matchup. I ain't want to deal with the Memphis Grizzlies because I look at them as a bit more deeper than I do right now. They ain't as deep as they need to be to beat us if we're doing what we're supposed to do. That's essentially what I'm telling you. As much as I respect what they have, I respect what we have a lot more. We just have a better roster. right now. Now, if they had Steven Adams, Clark, and everything was 100%, I'd look at this a bit different. But they're going to need Ja Morant and Desmond Bane to practically be efficient every night in order for them to really, really beat us. And that's just not something you're going to see, unfortunately for them. That's just not. Ja is not an overly efficient player every single night. Even though he's a superstar, there are going to be nights where he goes 6 for 20. Dylan Brooks, we know what he does. 4 for 16. Like, it's just what you expect. He's going to shoot that bad. He always does against the Lakers for whatever reason. So it's like I'm looking at Desmond Bane, I'm looking at Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson, as long as he's on the floor, he's a significant problem for anybody, both sides. Just like AD. He's not as talented as AD, obviously, but you had better take him seriously on both sides of the floor. Problem is, he hasn't figured out how to stay out of foul trouble enough to be as relied upon as he's going to be in this series. This becomes a Steven Adams thing again. Where's that next center? Is Tillman going to be enough when he gets in foul trouble? Saldana, is Roddy, and of course Lofton. Is Lofton going to be able to play some defense? I don't know if Lofton to be a defensive player. I know of Lofton to be a huge offensive talent that's hard to deal with, and I look forward to, having. Well, I guess that's not the way to put it. I don't look forward to having our guys deal with him because of his size and his ability to be physical. But I don't think he's going to be getting stops. Not against Anthony Davis, not against LeBron James. I don't see that. I see him being somebody who's going to be fouling those people. So if he's going to get in foul trouble, which I expect, and Tillman's got to do the job. Obviously, Tillman's done a fantastic job defensively. We know how fast he can be from left to right. It's been mentioned that he's able to guard perimeter players at times, so we need to respect that as this series progresses, that their center is going to be guarding people that we probably will see on the perimeter. Both of them, Jaren and him, both will be doing that. So I think that can create an interesting dynamic when you talk about what LeBron James is going to be facing as he walks the ball up and stuff like that. The type of matchups that Rui Hachimura is going to be facing. Vanderbilt. But see, this is when it gets tricky for them. You see all them names I just mentioned? They ain't going to have an answer for all those size. All that size they're not going to have an answer for. Bamba, if we decide to go Bamba in this round, it's going to be tough on them, man. They're just not going to have that. Jaren Jackson's only one person. Tillman could play a little defense. He will help. But after that, you're on your own, Jaren. You're on your own as it pertains to what you're going to deal with in the front court with all that we have. And that's a lot of forwards, man. Vanderbilt, as I said, Bron, AD, Rui, Winyon. That's already a headache in and of itself. And so, Bamba, of course. And you start talking about Troy Brown, if you start talking about length and stuff like that, it's a lot. They're going to really need Saldana and Roddy and those guys to play absolutely phenomenal basketball in order for us to be, in order for Memphis to really be able to celebrate the way they want to. It's going to be on them stretching the floor. Ja, like I said, very efficient. Bane, he's going to have to be efficient every night. Bane can't have no 3 of 15 nights. They're not going to sustain. They're not going to sustain. So my concerns with the Los Angeles Lakers are the same concerns I'm going to always have with the Los Angeles Lakers. What rotations is coach going to put on the floor? How easy is it going to make it for the opponent? And how tough is it going to be for us to try to win close games when we're not really good at that? The game be easy for the opponent all the way to the end, and then we're fighting for our lives like we couldn't do nothing all the way up until that point. It's just it's a style that is garbage, in my humble opinion. It leaves for no rest, as I've always mentioned with you guys. When I talk about how we do things, we think about how our players are older. The core is older, so we would like to see more blowout games. We'd like to see more games where our starters are sitting in the second half, but our strategy never allows for us to actually have that type of distance, ever. Like, if we get a lead like that, we give it up and we put our little funky bench rotation in, whatever it is he comes up with for that particular night. It's usually going to give the lead back. So that's the problem. Can you get away with that type of malarkey in the playoffs against teams? And the answer is, who knows? Sometimes the roster is good enough to overcome that kind of thing. Sometimes every night You'll have a close game because of your nonsense, and then every night your superstars and your talent to pull you out of it. If that's how it's going to be, that's just how it's going to be. It's going to suck to watch every night, but if it ends in us winning, it's just a path to the end that we want. But it seems like such a bad path. It's like I picture it going down a steep hill to climb out of that hole every night. It's like why would you put yourself through that when it ain't necessary? Why would you? It's just that kind of thing. It's Darvin Ham. And I just don't really know if there's any consistency to players being superstars and being good coaches, or players being okay players and being good coaches. There's no real consistency to that. I've seen role players turn out to be phenomenal coaches. I've seen superstars turn out to be terrible coaches. So there's no consistency there. But I just look at Darvin Ham and say, man, this is one of them times where I'm just like, I remember Darvin as a role player. You know what I mean? And I see role player in him right now as it pertains to the coach. It's almost like he leans in on role players. You know what I mean? It's like that's what he tends to believe in. It's like maybe it's just how I'm viewing it, but it's almost like he's kind of like, okay, that's the guy who's struggling. That's the guy who needs my support, because I remember when I was a struggling player and this is what I needed. It's almost like we're getting that type of the vibe from the coach, and it's like, that's really nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can get behind that. Everybody needs somebody to support them, especially at that level. But for what it is we're trying to do, it's just misplaced. This is not what the Lakers should really be doing at all with this type of roster. It's not what we should be doing. And so that's really where I'm at, man. That's my concern with the team. I never worried that the roster is going to be able to overcome, because a guy like D'Lo and LeBron James, I mean, there was a play today in the Minnesota Timberwolves game that I just thought showed off LeBron James and D'Angelo Russell's superpowers at the same time. LeBron James shot the ball off to D'Angelo Russell. He caught it in mid-air but was falling out of bounds and immediately shot it back to Bron, as to which Bron was able to catch it. Right there, what we saw was God-given gift. LeBron James's incredible accuracy, and then D'Angelo Russell's incredible accuracy to get back the ball back to LeBron James, as to which LeBron, incredible accuracy to catch it. We were watching superhuman stuff. I don't know if people realize what they were seeing right there, but I don't think there's like 3 or 4 players in the league that could have did that together. Those dudes were super accurate to no end in regards to what it is they were doing in that little flurry of moment. And LeBron James, of course, caught the pass that D'Angelo gave him and immediately got to the bucket and made a play out of it. I tell you, there's not maybe 4 players in this league that could have did that together. You have to have the superhuman passing, short window accuracy greatness of D'Angelo Russell and LeBron James having that equal talent in order to see that play happen. And so for me, it's like, I do not disrespect those 2 players' gifts. They have a gift, both of them. And so we want that on our team. It gets a little frustrating when we start talking about their health, particularly those 2. But at the end of the day, that play right there showed me exactly what it is that I think is the type of thing that can overcome the type of garbage I've been complaining about. Essentially what I'm saying. When you have superhumans on your team, they can overcome mediocrity from your coach. They can overcome bad rotations. They can pull you out of the 10-point deficit that you're going to have at halftime every night because of those rotations. So that's what it is. I'm not discouraged by D'Lo's bad shooting night. Like I said, I've seen Dennis Schroeder have stats like this probably half the season, where he gets a bunch of a bunch of free throws made, a bunch of assists made, and then horrible shooting numbers. It's basically what you expect from DS every night. So getting it from D'Lo and then having DS give us what we expect from D'Lo pretty much sums up why I think this roster is championship worthy. That right there. They just switch spots, basically. And because we're so talented, they're able to. Like, that's really what it is. So that's what happens to teams. I look at a team like the Memphis Grizzlies. Once again, I think about like Jones, for example. Jones is going to have to be very, very important off the bench for them behind John Morant. In fact, they would be wise to try to sneak him into some starters' minutes, because he's one of their best players and they're going to need his talent on the floor. which could render them small and using small ball lineups. But believe it or not, it might be the best way for them to utilize the most of their talent, because he should not be a role player just because Ja is back. They need him to be one of their best players every night. And so that's where their roster gets a little tricky. That's exactly where their roster gets a little tricky, because you want Bane on the floor, you want Brooks on the floor for defense, and you want to look Kennard on the floor to shoot the ball since he's having a nice season for them. You better be careful with Kennard too. He's going to probably shoot us down in a couple of these games. But all in all, Jones is probably one of your most stable and solidified pieces on both sides. It's just too many guards, and all of them are really, really good. And they're not as seamlessly interchangeable as ours appear to be. And then if we run into any injury issues, we trust a guy like Lonnie Walker can come up and immediately give us a different dynamic, a difficult dynamic for them to defend, which is something I also like. We start getting foul trouble. It's not a situation of, okay, now the bench is starting to get weaker. If you're Memphis, now you're looking over at them Lakers and say, okay, we got to strategize different, because now we got more pressure on the rim, different type of threat. Lonnie may not be defensive, but he's going to do other things to speed up the pace. So it turns the game into something else, as opposed to them feeling like they get a breath of fresh air because we run some injury issues. You know what I mean? So I look at all this length. Well, coach can either use it or not, but we have a lot of length to throw at this Memphis team. A whole lot. On top of Anthony Davis, Mo Bamba, Vanderbilt, Troy Brown, LeBron James, Hachimura. That's just a lot of people that are overly tall and overly long for Memphis to try to throw at us with their rookie power forward and some of those other role-playing guys that's going to be playing next to Jaren Jackson. It's just not. It don't look as good for Memphis as I thought it did, put it like that. When you start really looking at that roster and what they're going to be dealing with, they don't look as good as. We should probably be able to knock them off in about 5-6 games. I think the only thing that's really saving them really is home court. Because if this thing started in our building, it'd be gone. They'd be gone, in my opinion. They really legitimately be gone. Now that I've had a chance to look at these two rosters. It's just, the thing about Memphis is you start to wonder if some of them dudes they're going to call on are really going to be good, because they do draft very well. They do have good scouts, and we know this. They're a deep team. But when I look at them back of their bench right now, because of how they're depleted, they're not all that deep. They're not all that deep right now. Having Steven and Brandon on top of all this stuff makes them extremely deep. But when you move those pieces, they're just solid. They're just a regular team. They're not shallow, but they don't have depth. And so that's what I see there. I see them getting in foul trouble and needing on some players they'd rather not. Hoping some guys who they know can play well step up and do play well in pressured moments against who? LeBron James, Anthony Davis, NBA champions. Memphis has a lot of pride, and their superstars are very capable. John Morant and Jaren Jackson are extremely capable, obviously. And then Dylan Brooks is one of the best perimeter defensive players, even though he's going to give up everything else on the other side, shooting bad and turning the ball over. But he's still going to be a menace, and he's going to talk loud, and he's going to try to get in our heads, and he's going to do everything he can to disrespect us, to make us get angry at that disrespect and not play well. Can't react to it. Disrespect ain't really disrespect. It's a distraction. And that's what we need to understand. You know, this team, the only thing they disrespect, honestly, is themselves. When they walk around, parading around as if they've accomplished something when they haven't, they make fools of themselves. And the only way they're going to remedy that is by beating us in this series. And we need to understand that and see the fullness of that. This is a young team that has been running around acting as if they can do what it is that they've yet to accomplish. We have accomplished that. It's that simple. We should be doing the gritty. We're the ones that should be having the crazy admins on IG clowning everybody we see. Why? Because we actually have the wins to back it up. Not regular season, but championship. Not 1,700 million years ago, but the last one we just got in 2020, since they've been assembled. This team ain't that. And so we have a special, unique opportunity to send them home. And we're properly constructed to do so, which makes it very, very awesome for us to be in this position. Because they were the ones who came into our building and disrespected us. Shannon Sharp, that whole situation with the blue cardigan, all of that is going to rear its head when we see them again. And so that's what we need to be thinking about. We need to be thinking about all the different distractions that they're going to be trying to throw at us in that same vein. And we need to understand that ain't none of it going to save them from the onslaught of size that we're going to throw at them. So always what we got to remember, no matter how much dust they kick up, we're still bigger and badder than them. No matter how many different nicknames they call themselves, they still ain't accomplished a damn thing to earn them nicknames. No matter how many times they try to come up with these real weak gimmicks that they got as a team, Villain Brooks, Ja Wick, and all these little things that represent something that they ain't done, you just remember that they're looking at something that's bigger, stronger than them. Just remember that. While they're sitting there saying they want us. Oh, we want the Lakers, we want the Lakers. When you look and line up them two rosters, you understand that no, they don't want the Lakers. They don't. They don't at all. And so that's what it really comes down to. I'm a humble Laker fan as it pertains to myself in this roster, because I always tell you guys, we can lose to any cluster of NBA talent. Just put together 12 guys. The way that Darvin structures, he can find a way for us to be close in that game with them, no matter who they are. It could be 12 Shaqs, 12 Chris Dudleys. And we're going to, it doesn't matter. He's going to find a way to make it easy for them to guard us. But our roster is talented enough to give him a run for his money when doing so. And that's really what it comes down to. Not many teams can overcome a bad coach, injury issues, and all kinds of other stuff. We can, I think. So that's what it really comes down to, man. I want to give LeBron James his credit. He shot the ball well in this game. Timberwolves, I don't think I gave him enough credit. He hit a big three-point shot in the overtime to help us win. A lot of what he did down there was bad because of the lineups that he was in. The plus-minus stuff like that in the lineups. But he only attempted 3 or 4 3-point shots in the Timberwolves matchup, which I did appreciate. I thought he played some good defense in some isolated sequences. And I thought he brought the right intensity to this basketball game to help us secure a must-win victory. And, his 30-plus points is almost unsung in a way when we think about Dennis Schroeder. We think about the offensive rebounds, AD. You think about the other team and some of the performances that were going on over there and the cold shooting that was on both sides. But at the end of the day, I think the King deserved a lot more credit for how he played against the Minnesota Timberwolves in that play-in game. And I don't think we win the game without his heroics. So that's something I wanted to say. I've been on the LeBron's case. He ain't really been on my good side lately with how he's been approaching these games. Some of the stuff that I've been getting from him as of the last 2 weeks. But I like how he approached this game, and hopefully we're turning the corner and we're starting to see him heal from his foot a little bit and just kind of getting into a better rhythm for the playoffs. And this rest, I think it will be great for the King as well. So that's what I'm thinking about, man. And the Memphis Grizzlies, they walk around like they got the Golden State Warriors, everything that the Warriors have accomplished in this life. You would swear the Memphis Grizzlies have accomplished it with the way they behave. And I don't respect it. I don't think most of the league respects it. That's what it really comes down to. I know what victory is about. I know what winning is about. They've never done it. They have done things every time I've seen them that are counterproductive to their very own process. Every time. You know what I mean? And it's very consistent for me, and I just don't respect when you have that type of arrogance attached to that type of performance, to that type of structure and what it is that you're doing. If you ain't going to find yourself hoisting the trophy, do not behave as if you've done so. If I look up in your arena and I don't see a single solitary banner that represents any NBA championship from any year, which I do not, then you ain't got no business running around calling yourself this, calling others out, clowning everybody you beat as if that win ain't going to be followed up with an eventual exit from the playoffs. You're going to end up a loser in the end every time, because that's who you are until you change it. And I think part of changing it is putting that down, putting that nonsense down. Stop acting like you've accomplished something you haven't. Listen to people who are telling you they don't respect it, because there's a reason for that. There's an excellence that you haven't reached. And if you're to reach it, it's going to be because you did some things that you have yet to learn how to do. And that's what it really comes down to for the Memphis Grizzlies. That's exactly what I have to say to them. Y'all ain't learned how to do what it is that you are looking to be respected for. And when you get to where you're going, if you get to that mountain top, you will realize why people don't respect what it is that people do like this. And when you run into that team that acts like you, after you've accomplished something, you will respect them even less than we respect you. That's what I have to say to the Memphis Grizzlies. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching.